Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar that we have today. We're talking about both Popdock and SmartConnect and how the two products are going to be better together. Thank you all for attending today. And who we've got presenting is we have myself here, Chris Hansen, the SmartConnect product manager with E1. And then we also have Chris Dew on the line as well, our Popdock product manager. So we're going to be taking you through both of our products, both Popdock and SmartConnect. We'll do a brief overview of each, and then we'll go ahead and actually dive into some of the features and the functionality that make the tools really powerful when you use them together. So to go through what we have for the agenda today is, again, the expectation for this webinar is that everybody on the call has a general idea of what both SmartConnect and Popdock are and what they do as a product and as a solution. With that said, we'll still take time to go through the overview of each of them. I'll cover the SmartConnect overview in general, how it works, our different connection points, what the benefit of it is. Chris Dew will take over the Popdock overview, and then from that point on, we're done with the slides for the most part. We're going to show you product, we're going to show you it in action, the different screens, and how you can build different solutions out. So Chris Dew will take you through Popdock, some of the advanced lists, the filtering, why Popdock is so powerful in terms of getting data from where you need it, and either displaying it where you want it, or in this case, using it within SmartConnect. So I'll be able to take some of the lists that he builds out, or lists that he talks about, along with some lists that I've built before the call here, and I can show you a couple different ways in which we can pull that data into SmartConnect, and how we can leverage Popdock as both the connector and a connection as our source, as for our source data, and then also how we can use the two tools together in a real world scenario that I've got built out to finish off this presentation. So at the end, we'll go through questions and answers. If at any point you have questions during the webinar though, feel free to go ahead, type them in. We have a question and answer box, we have a chat box. We'll be looking at that at the end of the presentation and showing and going through and answering anything that you have questions on. So to start it off, for the SmartConnect overview, again, the main idea behind SmartConnect is we've designed it as a no-code integration platform. We want users to use this for both their data migration, both for ongoing synchronization, or even just those manual, daily uploads that users have to do to get data into their end systems. Now, if you're not familiar with what SmartConnect is at all to this point, this diagram does a very good job of explaining where we're able to get data from, where we're able to send it to, and what we can do to that data as it's being transmitted from point A to point B. So at the top of this graphic are data sources. These are all the different systems we can pick up data from. So we can grab data from your traditional Business Central, Nav, GP, etc. We need to update this graph to show that Popdock is a source for SmartConnect now as well, since that's the theme of this particular webinar. We can get data from any Popdock list as well. The very bottom of this graph, the destination, that's where we can send that data to, where we're pushing it to, either as a one-time push, whether it has an ongoing synchronization. Those are the different systems we have connections built out for, and then also be able to connect to those generic web services that you have. Now, the two middle boxes, that illustrates what we can do with that data as it's being sent through and how we can trigger the integrations to run. So that trigger section is, do you want this map to be, or this integration to be real time? Do you want it to be on a schedule? Is this a manual process where a user actually uploads and submits data? Or do we want to go ahead and call that through a different API or through potentially your own .NET application or website? So you've got full control over how you want the integrations to run when you're sending the data through. So the last box, that third one down, transform, this is where a lot of the functionality of SmartConnect comes into play, because it's very rare that you have perfect data from point A to point B when you're sending it from one system to another. So within SmartConnect, we're able to transform that data, we can translate it, we can write different scripts to come up with data as needed as we're sending it through. And then we also have different options depending on our destination system. We'll go ahead and allow you to do different features or functions to get exactly the data you need into that system. So that's a very high level overview of SmartConnect, but again, if you haven't seen it before, that should paint a picture of what this tool is capable of when you put it in place in your system. So
Okay. Well, this is Chris Dew now, and so you got another Chris. But what we're talking about with Popdock, and here's kind of 5 key pillars of this solution. We do provide basically a query engine that allows us to expose data wherever you work. So that means, if you're working inside of a Dynamics GP system, we can actually see all of the data from GP or even other places, other sources, but we can see it inside of the interface. We can see it inside of a CRM interface, inside of an e-commerce site, inside of a help desk site, those kinds of things. And we can do that and really have the data show up other places as well. So I'll talk about that in just 1 second. But basically what we're allowing you to do is to have one interface for reporting from any system. So like I just named maybe 4 different types of data, but we can now tie all those pieces of data together and give you a unified interface to report off of those types of things. We can also, again, do custom reports. We can even include information between those systems. And this is where some of the really cool things start happening, because you may have data that's sitting in a SQL server. You may have data that's in a web service. You may have data in some other type of API out there, but we can join those essentially like virtual SQL tables. And it's very, very easy to do using Popdock. Another key component that we do talk about with Popdock, again, some people are comparing it to other solutions out there, but one thing is that there's not a data warehouse behind this. This is something that is pulling live data for you. And that, to me, for a lot of people, when you're talking about mission critical things at your company, and being able to see that information, right? Maybe it's live inventory data, maybe it's other types of things like that, is being able to access that data that is critical for your job function, and seeing it in one place. And then the last part, I'll touch on here. I may not get into in the scope of this conversation, but being able to schedule some of these reports to run without even being logged into any system, right? Maybe not being logged into your ERP system, maybe not being logged into Popdock, right? The web interface of Popdock. But you can actually have some of these reports running. So there's just kind of a couple key pillars. You want to advance the next slide, Hanson? And just wanted to point out that, again, there's a bunch of connectors, so we can connect to, we have a bunch of dedicated connectors, and then we have some more generic web service connectors that allows us to connect to all these APIs out there that we don't even necessarily know about today. So there's some nice things in there. And again, when we start talking about it in the context of that relationship between Popdock and SmartConnect, I think you'll see that there's some really nice advantages to how we can do some of these things. So I'm going to take over now.
All right, you should be a presenter.
Yep, sounds good. And I'm going to start you, for maybe a lot of people, not where they thought I would start. I'm going to start inside of a CRM system. Happen to be using Microsoft's Dynamics 365, but it could be Salesforce, it could be any number of systems. And what I'm going to show you next is that I have the capabilities of embedding data with Popdock right inside of here. So that's kind of one of the things we talked about. Now I'm using this as just a delivery mechanism to show you some of the really cool things that we can do inside of here, because I happen to be seeing some ERP data, and this is where the conversation gets interesting, right? Because when we talk about Popdock and SmartConnect together, there's really a spectrum of, do I need to integrate data, or do I need to just show data between systems? And so it's great to give you that conversation and really help people find out what things they do need to move. There's definitely times where you just have to move data between systems, right? Duplicating that data. But there's other times where it may make sense to just expose some of that data in a very, very easy manner in a widget like Popdock. But once we have a widget, so in this case, I happen to be showing ERP orders. So it's a live look into my ERP system, and I'm pulling all of the orders for this Giordano's company or customer that we have. And what I want to show you here is that we talked about some of the filtering. So some of the cool things that are built in here right now, right, is I have an unlimited amount of filters I can apply. So I can choose any of these fields that I like inside of here. So if I wanted to do a document date, for example, and I want to either, say equals or maybe one of these more interesting types of joins, I could do that. But instead of typing a specific date like today, I'm actually going to choose a comparison field. And this is where, for me, this gets really, really fun and helps with even some of the integration concepts that Chris Hansen is going to talk about in just a little bit, because these types of filters allow me to do things like, pull last month's sales or this month's sales or, last year. So you can do some really cool things like this. And so why don't I, just for the sake of this, I'm just going to pull this year. So I'm going to say that the document date has to be this year. I only want to see the orders or invoices in this case that came from this year. Now you could add as many of those filter criteria that you want. And again, this will come back to what Chris Hansen is going to show you a little bit later in this conversation. So I can do stuff like that. I can quickly add columns, right? If I wanted to add, maybe some additional address information or city, for example, I can do those kinds of things right inside of this interface without 10 different clicks. I'm able to very quickly add it. If I wanted to remove a column, right? Customer number and customer name looks fairly redundant in this case. And so I can actually get rid of the customer number, for example, just to give myself a little more real estate. So there's some really cool things you can do inside of this interface. And why I showed you this interface inside of a CRM system is because it's really the same interface that could be inside of an ERP system, that could be inside of the web interface. So let me log in and just show you that for a second. Because if I go inside of here and if I start pulling, for example, if I click on the accounts here, this is now pulling all of my CRM accounts that are inside of this. And I won't steal Chris Hansen's thunder because he's going to do some cool things with this in just a little bit. But basically, I can pull whatever data. And the cool thing, I don't know if anybody can see this, but the icons are changing at the top, right? So I have some that are CRM lists, but then you can see I have this one. This is a Business Central list. This is a Dynamics GP list. The next one over here might be a Zendesk, a help desk ticket list. So you can see that you have one unified interface to do those things. And some of the stuff with the filtering and things like that, that is available right inside of this interface that I can do it just like I showed you inside of the embedded system. So those are a couple cool things that I wanted to show you. Now, going back to this relationship that we have with SmartConnect, what are some really cool things? You showed me that you have a powerful filter that we can add fields very easily and add all kinds of criteria, and then I can even save those favorites and use those. But what if I want to add another connector, maybe one that SmartConnect doesn't have a dedicated connector for today? We can simply do that by going inside of here. You'll see I have way too many of them set up in this system, but let's say I have room for one more. So if I hit add connector, these are some of the built-in ones that we have for Popdock, and I'll add one in just a second. But I wanted to talk about, right, the more generic, anything with a SQL server, so anything with a view or a stored proc or things like that, or anything with a web service, right? I can pull those pieces of data and use that in my SmartConnect mapping. So just for the sake of brevity, I don't think I'll add one right now, but this is where you can add any connector that you desire, and then that list can be exposed, for use by SmartConnect. So let me do this though. Let me go ahead and I'm going to look inside of the connector that I have here. Well, actually, I'll go pull up one of these. If we look inside of this is a Dynamics GP connector, we can see here are a bunch of the lists that we have. So these are most of these are standard lists that are inside of there. With the GP connector specifically, you have the capability to add some of those cool things in there, like if it's an extender list or one that's been built with Smart List Builder, or even Smart List Designer, or again, anything with a view or a table, we can get at that data and we can make that available. And so most of the connectors have some kind of a capability of being able to add other pieces of data from that system. But this is where things get really interesting, is that I can actually add custom lists. And so what does that mean? Well, I can add lists that compare two pieces of data. And so I could compare, again, maybe something that is in my e-commerce system, right? If I have orders coming into my e-commerce system and I have customers set up there, and maybe I want to compare that to my ERP system to make sure that the customer also exists inside of there. I can do a comparison list, and I can do one of two things. I can say, give me all the ones that exist in both, or I can say, let's flip that. Only give me, the ones that don't exist in both. And so then you can choose which side you want in that comparison. But I can also do things like join lists together. So like I said, I could have some data from GP, like I'm showing you right here, and I could join in some data from a CRM system. I could, join it to some help desk system or whatever makes sense, as long as I have some unique field that has something in common between the two. I have that capability of joining that data, and there's a lot of power in being able to do, again, basically define these queries that give us access to data from multiple different systems. And then again, what you're going to see in a little bit is the capability of making that available right inside of SmartConnect so that we can show it there. I'll just briefly mention just a couple more of these. I want to make sure that Chris Hansen has enough time to show some of these really cool things. But you have the capability of also doing essentially union statements between multiple lists, right? So if I wanted, maybe I was migrating from an older ERP system, and I wanted to maybe not move all the data, but I still wanted to have some access to it. Well, I could create a merge list, and I could have data from the current system plus some historical data from the old system, without necessarily having to move and migrate all that data to the new system. So there's some interesting things just to get you thinking of what you can do with some of these lists like this. So Chris Hansen, I don't know if I'll go too much further with Popdock unless there's anything else you want me to set up before you go into your part of the demo.
No, I'll take over, and I'll go through just expanding on what you've brought up already, and show how we can leverage that here. So let me switch it over to my correct monitor. What we should have is our SmartConnect.com system open. So what Chris was able to go through, he showed the different ways we can connect to that data, the different options available inside of Popdock in terms of how that data is returned. And especially I want to just point out again those different filtering options that we have. That relative filtering where you're looking at just today's information or yesterday's or this week's or any of those terms, that's really powerful when you want to combine that with SmartConnect, as that's a filter and a query that you don't have to go back in and modify to keep up to date. That's going to be accurate no matter what day you happen to run your integration on. It's always going to be looking at this week or this day or whatever the case may be for your filter. So I'm gonna show two things in SmartConnect. First, I'm gonna show how easy it is to get connected to Popdock once you're using SmartConnect and Popdock and have an account in both. And I want to show that because I want to pull forward any of those lists or favorites that we have configured, and I'll use that same demo environment that Chris was using to show all the different connectors, all the different lists that we have under there, and how that pulls into the SmartConnect interface. After I show that, I'm going to switch and I'll show a solution that I actually built in terms of a scenario that's come up before that we've had requests on from different customers we've talked to over the years, and now we have a solution that fits what they need. So first, just adding Popdock into SmartConnect. If you haven't been there before, it's going to be under our connections option in here where we can add the different connections that we need. I've got my test account here, so I've got up to 50 connections available, so I definitely have room to add some more. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Create Connection. And we're going to pick Popdock as our option in here. So Popdock is now a connector that shows up in SmartConnect.com. When we select it, it's going to be fairly straightforward on how we connect. We're going to use just the user credentials of a user that we have inside of there. So I'm going to call this SC and PD webinar for my name, so we can identify that after I save it. And then we'll do our BC at demo.com is our user for this account. I'll click validate. It's going to say successful on here, which means I've now tied in that Popdock tenant to SmartConnect. Now, if you're familiar with SmartConnect, you know, like our new subscription-based pricing is set up on the number of connections you use. So the nice thing is that Popdock, if you set up, you can ignore that I've got 2 of them in here. In a real scenario, you'd normally have 1. When you set that up, that counts as 1 connection, but you're able to pull in that data from any of the other systems that you've tied Popdock to. So we're trying to incentivize, trying to promote the use of Popdock and SmartConnect together, especially with the advanced filtering we have in Popdock that lets us control the data we get. So once we have that connection set up, the second step is going to the data source and configure it inside of here. So Popdock is always going to fall into the bulk data source category, and we're doing that query because we're going to set up a query to pull from any one of those lists that we've created. So to do so, we'll do a new query in here. We'll grab Popdock again from the list of connections we have. Because this is my test system, we've got a bunch of different connections that show up, but this is the one we're focused on today. I'm just going to call this my new data because I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to pull yet. I just want to show that we have this connection point in place. So we can see the new connection that I just created moments ago. We'll add that in. We'll make sure we still connect. And then as Chris Du is talking about, he's got way too many connections set up in this Popdock environment. But we're able to connect to any one of these using our Popdock connection in SmartConnect. So I can go ahead and pull a saved connection from any one of these systems. So what I'm going to focus on is I'll go to Dynamics 365 Online 4, very good naming scheme that him and I have going in this system. What I'm going to look at is the customers group we have in here, because we've got some default lists that show up. So we could pull the default CRM accounts, we could pull the default contacts. I've actually created a new compare list that Chris was talking about earlier that compares data from CRM to my Business Central environment. So that's only going to be pulling back new CRM accounts that don't exist in my ERP at this point in time. So I can open that up. If you create any favorite on that, we can also find that favorite. So if I find the exact data I want, I can now go ahead and preview that, and I can see that pulling in. So we've got 4 new accounts that we want to go ahead and create in our ERP potentially. So that's how we can go ahead and connect to any one of those lists, any one of those favorites. If you adjust the filter for that favorite or that list inside of Popdock, once you save those changes and that filter gets committed, and the next time SmartConnect references that list, those changes are pulled in as well. So you're able to go ahead and update that on the fly if you need to, and we'll reflect any of those new options or those new filters. They'll be reflected in the data we pull into SmartConnect. Now, this is showing pulling it into SmartConnect. From this point on, I could save this data source. I could then use that data source on an integration, build it, run it from the interface. But I actually want to pull it outside of SmartConnect here. I want to get our focus away from our interface, get our focus away from the Popdock interface for a moment, and we'll actually focus on what a solution might look like after we're done with it. So I'm going to run with this idea of the new customers to be created. So here's the scenario that we've came across before. A lot of different companies and customers have a CRM environment. They also have their financial system. So in this case, my scenario is going to be customer engagement for my CRM, and I'm going to be using Business Central for my financial system. And what the scenario is they may have integrations set up to automatically sync their customers and accounts together. We do that internally. We've done that for a huge number of clients as well, where you look at the account, if the relationship type is customer, we have an integration that automatically moves that data across and creates the needed customer in Business Central or in whatever ERP they're using. Now, what if that is the case for, I don't know, 98% of the time? You want that to run. But every once in a while, you'll have an account that's set up as a different relationship type. It might be set up as an ISV, or it might be set up as a prospect or a promotional account. So it's got a different relationship type on it where that integration would not automatically pick it up. So that's where Popdock and SmartConnect comes in, and we've configured a demo or in a scenario here that would allow a user to review the accounts that exist inside of CRM that don't exist inside of that ERP yet. And they can go through them one at a time, review them, they can kick out the ones they don't want, and they can automatically sync up the ones that they do need. So to do this, what we've done is I've already got my Popdock list. I've got that compare list. I've created that favorite. So this is only going to be showing me those new records that I happen to need. The other side of it in SmartConnect is I've created an integration that's going to be looking at that data and sending it through to Business Central for my destination. So just to prove that they're in one system but not the other yet, when I preview that, we can see we got Jensen Tools, Coconut Banger's Ball, Ricky, and Rebecca on here. So we've got those 4 accounts. If I look at my Business Central environment, if I try to search through that, we'll just do, Jensen was one of them. They should not be in here. If I add my filter on here, just so when we come back and refresh this later, I'm going to update list to last date modified equals today. So when we do run this process, I'll just come and update this list and we'll see the new customers coming across on here. Also, these 4 were just created today in our CRM. None of them are set to that customer relationship type. If I open up Jensen Tools, just the first one on top here, we can say we've got a basic account. They've got 101 Main Street, Faro, North Dakota. All that information is filled in. And like I mentioned, the relationship type isn't customer, so it's not being picked up by that automated integration process. This is kind of an exception to that process. It's something we want human intervention, somebody to manually look at it and decide, should we bring this across or not? Now what we've done is we've got a couple Excel add-ins that we're going to use for it. So I'm going to open this up and we're going to take a look at both the Popdock Excel add-in and the SmartConnect Excel add-in to get the data that we need. So if I switch over to my data tab, we do have a Popdock add-in that is compatible with Office 365. So I can load this up. We're going to get a little panel on the side here, and I can connect again to any Popdock tenant that I have permission to. So since we've been working in this Business Central one, bc@demo.com, I'll add my password in. And if I put in the correct credentials, I'm going to get the option to go ahead and pick my connector, pick my group, category, lists. Everything that, again, we've configured in Popdock is available inside of here. So what I'm going to do is we'll go down to Dynamics 365 online. We'll grab our customer option. Instead of doing the accounts, I'm going to do my advanced list that I've created. I'm going to grab my favorite off of that. This is new customer to be created. I'll go ahead and click the insert data on here. So what we've got at this point is those 4 same records. They pulled in, that dropped it onto sheet 1 there. We can see what we're going to be working with. Now from this point, I could go ahead and eyeball this and say, all right, some of these aren't accounts I want to bring across. So I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, those 2. We'll go ahead and say, all right, those 2. We don't want to create them as customers inside Business Central. Let's focus on Jensen Tools and Coconut Banger's Ball. Now, from here, I can review the rest of the data if I want. I could go ahead and say, you know what? That's actually not the correct address. Let's go ahead and change that from 101 Main Street. We'll change that over to 25th Avenue South, and they're going to be in Suite 2B on there. We'll keep them in Fargo, but we knew the street address was wrong, so let's update that as well. So at this point, me as the user, I'm working in Excel, I'm making the changes, I'm reviewing it, kicking out the records I don't want. And when I'm ready, now I can switch over to my E1 Solutions tab, and I can actually run the integration based off of this from Excel. So I've already configured it in the service settings to tie it to my correct SmartConnect tenant and to point it at the integration I want to run. So from this point, from the end user perspective, all we need to do is click our Run Map option, and it's going to send this data across as it's processing. And as that is running, I'll fire this up here so we can pull it in. So run number 5 is complete, said success. Those accounts should have ran through. So what I should be able to see is I'll pull this back over and we'll start over in Business Central. So when I go to this page, I should be able to go ahead and refresh this. And we've got just the 2 that we said we wanted to bring across. So the 4 we originally pulled, we kicked some of them out, we brought them over. I believe I changed the address on the Jensen Tools customer record. So not only did it bring that customer in, it updated the address to what I wanted it to. Now, additionally, it ran that second integration behind the scenes automatically so that if I go back to the account, instead of 101 Main Street, when I reopen this account, this one should be at 25th Avenue, Suite 2B. So we had that automated process. We went through and it created both the customer records we needed from Excel. It didn't create the records we didn't include, and it updated both systems because of those integrations or because of those maps that we had configured. Now what I can do additionally is, because I said that we created this as a compare list, what I should be able to do is open another sheet here. So pretend this is the next day I'm reviewing these accounts again. If I go through and I say, all right, I want to just look at these customers that need to be created, because of the way that I've set up that list inside of Popdock to be that compare list, now it's only got, again, those two accounts that don't exist yet, because the other two I sent through, they now exist in both systems, so they're excluded from that Popdock list that we're returning. So that's a scenario that's come up before. That's something where it shows both the need for that human interaction to make the call on, all right, these don't fit our normal business process, which ones should be sent across to the other system. It lets the user get that data, view it, review it, make changes as needed, and then push it through using that combination of Popdock to retrieve the information and then SmartConnect to actually take action on it and integrate that through to the systems that we need to. So again, that was just to get everyone thinking on what they can do with both Popdock and SmartConnect together in terms of building out that complete integration solution on whether you just need to view your data in different locations or if you actually need to push it across to another system. So with that covers everything that we had today for showing the demo. What I've got for the final slide here is just a contact us piece that I'll put up on the screen. And then if anyone has any questions or comments at this time, now is when we should send them through, and we'll be looking at them to go ahead and answer anything that everyone has.
Yeah, thank you, Chris Hansen. Again, the questions pane is a great way if you want to ask us a question. We'll stay on for a few more minutes. I think what we've shown you today, hopefully we're inspiring you to think maybe a little differently about how you've approached integrations in the past. And again, looking at integration as really a spectrum of what needs to be moved, and again, which is the best tools. And then again, maybe just a little humble piece too is that while we think we write really great interfaces to help you guys accomplish these things, we realize that there are tools that you use every day like Excel and other systems that you prefer to work in and to still be able to do those things. So like those Excel add-ins that we've created for you allows you to get at that data that you need to do your job, and then again be able to either pull it down or be able to push those changes back to a system. So if you have any, again, like Chris Hansen said, if you have any further questions or want to dig deeper in on any of those concepts, we'd love to hear it, and we'll answer any questions that appear.
We've got one here. It looks like they're asking, do the add-ins cost anything additional? So
I guess answer that?
Either of us could answer it. The answer is no, the add-ins don't cost anything additional. To access them, the SmartConnect Excel add-in is downloaded from the E1 Solutions site. And I believe the Popdock Excel add-in is actually in the Microsoft AppSource Marketplace.
Yep, it's in the Office one specifically for AppSource. Yep, good question. There's one additional question. Look like they're just typing right now. Okay. It looks like that they're asking the piece that you showed earlier. Well, basically saying being able to query Popdock. Is there additional costs outside of SmartConnect for actually being able to use the Popdock connector? You want to tackle that one?
Yes. Yep. So from inside of SmartConnect, I mentioned Popdock just counts as one connection inside of your SmartConnect environment. So as long as you're on a subscription tier where you still have a connection available, you can make use of that from inside of SmartConnect. And then from the Popdock perspective, the level of account you need to be on for that is the professional tier, as that's what enables the API access for Popdock and allows tools like SmartConnect or any of your other custom tools if you wanted to query the Popdock API directly and to set up that connection. So there's no additional cost beyond the fact that Popdock takes up one connection to SmartConnect, and you have to be on the professional level of Popdock.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in there right now. So last call, if you do have any other questions, please get them into there. Otherwise, we'll wrap things up. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So I want to thank you guys for your time today. And again, you have our contact information if you would like to ask a deeper question at another time. But thank you for attending today and have a wonderful rest of your day.